All right, today we're talking about a grape that, by all accounts, really shouldn't exist. It's one of the rarest, most resilient wine grapes on the entire planet, Ramisco. And its story, well, it's the stuff of legends. So get this, picture the late 1800s. There's this tiny pest, basically a plague, that is wiping out every single vineyard across Europe. I mean, total devastation, a real catastrophe. But somehow, this one little patch of vines on the coast of Portugal, totally fine, untouched. So the big question is, how? And the answer is so simple, you almost won't believe it. It wasn't some fancy new chemical or some brilliant scientific breakthrough. Nope. The secret was right there in the ground all along. It was the sand. Okay, so let's really get into this incredible survival story. And to appreciate just how amazing this is, you first have to understand the bad guy in this tale. And this is it, Phylloxera. It's this microscopic little bug that came over from North America, and it just feasts on the roots of grapevines, killing them from the ground up. When this thing hit Europe, it was a full-on apocalypse for the wine world. The vines there had absolutely no defense. It just wiped out millions and millions of acres. So here's how the magic happened. That little Phylloxera pest, it turns out it can't survive or even move through deep, sandy soil. And the vineyards in Colares, well, they're basically just beach dunes. So while the rest of Europe was desperately grafting their vines onto American rootstock just to survive, the Ramisco vines in Colares were just fine, naturally protected. This means they are what's called pé franco, which translates to free foot. They're growing on their own original ancient European roots. Think about that. They're a living, breathing time capsule from before the plague. But this crazy environment doesn't just protect the grape, you know? It completely shapes who it is. So let's really dig into the terroir of Colares. So here we are, Colares, Portugal. It's one of the world's smallest and most historic wine regions. It's tucked right onto the Atlantic coast, getting absolutely battered by wind and sea spray day in and day out. This is not your typical postcard vineyard with gentle rolling hills. No way. This is a tough, almost unforgiving, but incredibly beautiful place to try and grow anything. And this comparison just shows you how worlds apart this is. On the left, you've got the traditional Colares method, the chão de areia, which literally means sand floor. The vines aren't up on trellises like you'd expect. They actually crawl along the ground, a lot of times planted way down in these deep pits to protect them from those crazy Atlantic winds. And everything is done by hand. It's unbelievably labor-intensive, a system that's been passed down for generations. You know, there's a local saying, a alma arenosa de Colares, the sandy soul of Colares. And that just nails it, doesn't it? This isn't just about a type of grape. It's about this deep, almost spiritual connection between the vine, the sand, the sea, and the people who have been farming it forever. The terroir, the sense of place here, it's everything. So, you're probably wondering, what does a wine that's been forged in this kind of extreme place actually taste like? Let's break down this sensory profile of Ramisco. Okay, so this table really shows you how the wine is a direct reflection of its home. It pours this really light ruby color, but don't let that fool you for a second. The aromas are this wild mix of red fruits, you know, like cherry and currant, but then you get these unmistakable notes of iodine and saltiness. It's literally like smelling the sea air. And all these earthy tones too. Then you taste it, bam, incredibly high, vibrant acidity and these really firm, powerful tannins. That structure is why it can age so well, softening up and getting insanely complex over decades. So, how do you tame that wild character? Well, it takes a very traditional, very patient approach. The harvest? All by hand, of course. Fermentation usually happens in these old-school stone or cement vats. Then, the wine sits with its thick grape skins for a long, long time to pull out all that color and, you guessed it, those famous tannins. And finally, it gets aged for years, usually in these huge old wood barrels. The point isn't to add oaky flavor, but just to let those tannins slowly soften up and let the whole thing find its balance. So let's talk about the long journey of Ramisco. I mean, surviving a global plague is one thing, but it turns out surviving the modern world has been a whole different kind of battle. This timeline really puts it all in perspective. People have been making wine here since the Romans. But look what happens after it pulls off this miraculous survival in the 19th century. In the late 20th century, it faces a brand new enemy, urban sprawl. Lisbon is right nearby, and the value of this coastal land for building houses just skyrockets. and vineyards started getting ripped out left and right to make way for development. And this chart, wow, it just shows you how devastating that was. Back in the middle of the 20th century, there were about 1,000 hectares of these incredible vineyards. Today, there are about 20. 20. That's it. The grape that cheated death by plague was almost completely wiped out by real estate. But the story isn't over, not by a long shot, because there's this small but fierce group of modern-day heroes who are fighting to save this incredible heritage. You've got these passionate producers like Viúva Gomes and Casal Santa Maria. You have the historic cooperative, which has been an anchor for the region. And then you have all these dedicated winemakers and associations working behind the scenes. These are the guardians of Ramisco's future. So, with this amazing legacy hanging by a thread, why does it matter so much? Why fight to preserve it? Let's talk about the future of this rare wine and, hey, how you can actually experience this piece of liquid history for yourself. Okay, so this makes perfect sense, right? A wine born from the sea is a fantastic partner for Portuguese food. If you get a younger Ramisco, that bright acidity is just perfect for cutting through the richness of grilled sardines or some amazing grilled octopus. And those salty notes, they're a beautiful match for seafood rice. But if you find an older, more complex bottle, oh man, that's stunning with roasted meats or game, where its earthy side can really come out and play. So when you get right down to it, Ramisco is so much more than just a wine. It's not just something you drink. It's a liquid story. It's the taste of a very specific place. You can taste the sand, the salty air, the wind. It's a story of pure resilience against impossible odds. And it's a living tribute to the people who just refuse to let this unique piece of our world disappear. And that really leaves us with one final question to think about. In a world where so many things are globalized, where so many products are designed to taste exactly the same no matter where you are, what's the real value of something like this? Something that can only come from one tiny strip of sandy coastline. What's the value of a wine that is so defiantly, beautifully itself, and simply cannot be copied anywhere else on Earth?